We're joined by Mpumelelo Zikalala, who's a legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys, to help us unpack this matter. Very good evening to you, Mpumelelo. Thank you for your time. While every government department is subjected to consistent parliamentary oversight, this is not the case for the presidency. It's a rather peculiar matter, isn't it?
Good evening to you and also to your viewers. Yes, it is. And in fact, it's also in non-compliance with our constitution. If you look at section 92 of our constitution, it says that cabinet is supposed to be accountable to parliament and is supposed to report back in terms of all the programs that are there. Now, the president is part of the cabinet. Hence, his office ought to be there and also account as well and with a full comprehension of what his office is actually doing. And not only start and end when they answer to oral questions, which are then taking place in the National Assembly. Especially when you have a situation in South Africa where there are a number of departments that have now moved into the office of the president. So you have the office or minister in the presidency in the highest number that you've ever had, and yet there's no way in which we're able to hold those ministers accountable. There's no way in which we're able to hold the office of the president accountable. So there is a lack of oversight that needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think that that number, a recent count puts the number of these structures established by the president at 26, which really talks to how big of a group and formation it is. But with Parliament now reluctant to make a decision on the establishment of this committee, what are some of the implications, more so noted in the recommendations of the Zondo Commission?
I think one is going to be, the glaring one is that non-compliance with the report may mean that even the Zondo Commission can then take Parliament to court and say you must comply with these recommendations, otherwise we need to find ways in which we'll be able to punish you. Secondly, is that the lack of oversight then results in what we may be seeing now, the problems that are cropping up. And that's why you would find that some departments are then moved internally to the office of the presidency because they are non-performing on their own. Hence, the presidency wants a much more super hold on them to say, I want to be able to see what you are doing on a daily basis. But what it means, or the individuals that are going to suffer the most is us as members of the public. Because it means you have an office of the president which is doing things on their own, not being accountable to members of the public, and not being accountable to a proper structure that is meant to hold them accountable, which is Parliament. The only time in which they are accountable in is when they go to Parliament as and when for those 3-4 hours on a quarterly basis, and then that's that. Now, for such an important office, for such an office that does so much and make sure that all the other cabinet members are doing their job, the amount of hours in which they are held to be accountable is very little, because you can't even move or zoom in into specific issues. Hence why we have individuals that are not really performing in their ministry duties and they are still kept, because there's no way in which even the president is being told, this minister is not doing their job, can they please move?
With the presidency being the only department that receives a budget from Parliament without the very detailed and rigorous parliamentary scrutiny by a committee, what role will such a dedicated committee assist in, more so in exercising their oversight role?
The first one is to check, when you have been given such a budget, are you utilizing that budget to utmost level? Are you utilizing the budget to the best interest of us as members of the public? Is there anything untoward that should be done? But most importantly, the reason why we have these oversights is to prevent harm from taking place, to prevent individuals from occupying offices and yet they're doing their job, being there on a daily basis and not providing the services which are required by us as members of the public. So it is absolutely crucial that you have a system and a mechanism in which you are going to check, are you doing the job in a manner that you ought to be doing your job in? Are there any instances of corruption? Is there anything that we need to recommend to scope up, for example? If there is, let's do that quickly so that it does not escalate into something that you cannot be able to handle at a later stage. If there's no oversight, then it means the very job in which the members of the National Assembly are elected to Parliament to do, they are failing to do.
Parliament has now embarked on some sort of process to try and finalize this matter. It's taken quite a while. Any idea what would need to be considered in the background before such a decision and commitment is made? Because, I mean, all eyes are on Parliament now to see what moves are made and how far this process can go.
I even think, even though there's no substantiation to what I'm going to say, that maybe it was done deliberately to say, let the seventh administration deal with it. We're not going to deal with it now. So let the new members of parliament that are going to come in be vested with this situation, and how is it that they're going to be able to do it. The other one is to look at the intricate terms of references that are going to be utilized. How do we make sure that we're able to hold the presidency accountable without infringing on all the other committees that are there? Because as the president, all the cabinet members report to him. So you can almost think that there may be a double oversight is going to take place. So how do you make sure that whatever that you're going to discuss within the presidential committee looks only at what the president is supposed to do, especially in line with what is happening within its powers? And how do you make sure that you do not encroach in other departments and other legislative bodies that are there to conduct that particular oversight, especially Parliament as a whole? So if you're going to be very specific and be very clear what the job of the oversight committee is going to be, and make it too general, we are going to have a member task in providing a report, in providing a clear mandate to those committee members as to exactly what are they there to do. But the simplest thing would be to say, if we are going to provide a budget to you, just make sure that you are utilizing that budget effectively. Number two, we are able to hold all the other cabinet members on a performance management basis to say what assessment tools are being utilized to assess whether this minister and deputy minister are doing their job, including the DG and all the other individuals that report to them. What performance measures or KPIs have you put out there? How many of those have been met? But most importantly, in instances where people do not perform, what are you doing about them? Because we need individuals that are going to perform for all 4 quarters of the year.